Like a true Justin Bieber song. Oh, sorry. Welcome to the podcast. We're going to talk faster than usual. Why?
Because we are actually in the WOVA conference.
Not the WOVA conference. We are in the National Food Conference, and they just played our pre-recorded video.
30 minutes.
Video.
30 minutes.
Yeah, you know what? So Cory and I thought about this. You got to always think with the customer in mind, and maybe the customer didn't want to see our faces. So what we did was we talked marketing fundamentals while playing videos of Cory decorating cookies.
Yeah, so it's not so boring, just a little boring.
I thought it was a much better idea than
I
just
think
our
it was.
faces.
I would much rather be watching decorated videos than myself.
I sound bad
You do
because
sound bad.
I'm recovering from a head cold, I guess, but the trees are having the babies everywhere.
On my car.
I parked next to Cory for lunch, Olive Garden. And I said, "What is on your car? Little stardust, like in directions." And she's like, "It's a tree having a lot of babies." But when I came out to my car, it was covered in the star.
It's like little comets across the car. But I just watched
washed the car yesterday.
Didn't look like it.
You could not tell that these cars were washed yesterday.
No.
But the baby trees are just a growing.
Spring is in the air, my friends. It is green outside.
So let's talk about what is this podcast.
This podcast is not about the green outside. It's actually about marketing.
Green in your pocket.
Marketing the green in your pocket. It's actually about marketing your bakery business, whether you're just starting out and thinking about it, you're well on your way, or you're a brick and mortar. You can get a little bit of something, mostly marketing nuggets, from this podcast.
I thought we were doing No House.
What?
You said last week, no more nuggets. I want to do No House. Back to the nuggets.
I forgot.
We're Chick-fil-A.
I forgot the note.
I heard on TikTok, before it gets banned, that the average Chick-fil-A revenue, don't know gross or net, is $8 million for the standalone and $5 million for the mall stores.
I heard that too. And they're not fast growing. Like they're just not trying to pop Chick-fil-A's everywhere.
Even though I feel like
they are everywhere.
In our area, but it still doesn't matter. In our area, they have every Chick-fil-A has a dual line now, right?
They did remodel mine, and
mine has it too. And then the one off of 95 between us has it.
Oh, yeah, they did.
Yeah, they remodeled it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still chaotic.
Oh,
that was being the most chaotic.
There's no party.
But why are we talking about Chick-fil-A?
Because we said marketing nuggets, and they serve chicken nuggets, and the correlation was right there.
I heard that the franchise owner also must work in the store.
I told you that.
Oh, see? Look, I know I was told it. I know I was told it. So let's jump into the marketing 3-strip chicken meal number 3. For today, and talk about a question we were emailed in, which I thought was pretty interesting on working with partners, which Cory and I know.
Yeah.
So let me pull this question up here. Names have been changed to protect the innocent. I have searched the group and I haven't found anything. But have you ever done a class, a podcast, or a post about being in business with family or having a business partner? Which Cory and I happen to do 2 birds, 1 stone that. So these are the questions. How do you split up tasks, or do you stay involved in everything? How do you deal with conflict? And the third question is, how do you make business decisions if you both have different ideas? For example, logos, website pricing, and everything. So those are great questions. And I would say that you and I have learned how to do this through some growing pains.
Through a little bit of growing pains, but now we kind of have a system and a flow.
Yeah, so the key was a couple years ago, I got Cory to sign a document knowing she'd never read it that gave me majority ownership, which means my vote always counts. That'd be hilarious because you would not read it.
Me starting to sweat. I've been working for Ray.
Okay, so Cory and I are 50-50 owners, which means neither vote trumps the other. So we have to go in with, if you're any of my Trekkies out there, consensus has been reached.
Yes.
So since we're not the Borg and we do have emotion, that would mean that we have to kind of sit down. So let's address her first question. Do you split up tasks, or do you both stay involved in everything?
We learned a long time ago, if both people are involved in everything, you're going to do half the amount of work.
For twice the labor cost.
I know. It's too much. In a little bit, when you're working with someone, it takes a little bit of trust.
If you can't trust, if you don't trust your business partner, I don't know that it's something you can ever succumb. That would have to be built up first. So you may say, well, they broke my trust once. You got to really do some digging, even if it requires hiring a business coach to kind of see why you guys have such differences, that someone's willing to break trust. Mm-hmm. Now, another thing on the flip side of somebody breaking your trust, did they not feel safe or confident enough that you would listen? Yeah.
Wait,
Why do you lie? You're right. You're gonna get in trouble. So let's think of a time where you and I disagreed on an approach and then what we did. Everything.
Hold on. I know there's something out there.
Here's what typically it'll look like. This is how we introduce new ideas. Hey, I'm throwing this noodle against the wall, see if it sticks.
And then we also say, I'm not tied to it in any way
tear
whatsoever.
this apart. I have no allegiance. It's always like hey, I'm not sure if this is a good idea, but let's sit down and think about it.
So it's honestly setting the expectation. If I went into something that I really, really cared about and Heather was like, I'm not for it. And I didn't set the expectation, like this isn't a noodle against the wall. This is something I'm passionate about.
Another thing is, I would say that the foundational thing is if you have trust, do you have the same common goal? So at the end of the day, Cory and I, a lot of our business goals are around growth. So that means a lot of our ideas are around growth, and neither idea is necessarily wrong. But if my idea is like, I want to be a mom and pop shop, and Cory's like, I want to be an international conglomerate, well, then a lot of our ideas are already going to misalign out of the gate.
And some people can grow a little too much apart that their goal is just to spite the other person. And it seems like you're pulling teeth every time you need to make a quick decision. It's this long drawn out process. They always seem against it. Then you might need to take a step back and say, like, there is some foundational cracks.
I would say if anyone's listened to the John Gottman series of many relationship books, your business partner and you are in a relationship. And if you think about it, you'll often see them more often than you'll see your spouse. We work 9 to 5, 40 hours a week. A lot of time business owners will work even more than that. Cory's texting me about work all the time. Granted, I'm not doing anything anyway, so I don't care. But so you're in a relationship with this person. And if we go back to the Gottman's 4 horsemen of a dead relationship, the final one is contempt, where you do things just to spite the other person, at which if you read the books, once the contempt horseman's right alongside, it's pretty hard to salvage the relationship.
What are the other 3 horsemen?
I know one is stonewalling, when somebody has the idea and you just don't reply to them.
Just because you don't like their idea or you don't like them.
4 horsemen of the apocalypse, Gottman. Now the first person. Okay, so we have contempt, criticism, defensiveness, and stonewalling.
Oh, yeah.
So just to go through, okay, if Cory and I get down to contempt, it's too far gone. So you need to say, if you're in a business partnership, these are the 4 things you have to avoid. Now, criticism, Cory and I'll say that, like, that's with the whole, like, hey, I'm not tied to this idea. Mm-hmm. Or if, I came to you and I was like, hey, I really like this idea. Can we make it work? Cory would be like, well, I don't think it's the best, but if you really want to, it's something, because the common goal is the health of the company, not ego.
Yeah. I think when we deal with business owners a lot, they do want their hand in everything, and they want, if you bring them a great idea, they want to tweak it. And that, if your business partner brings you an idea and you're like, well, I just want to tweak it, and you're tweaking it every single time, you're going to
stop bringing you ideas.
They're going to stop. You are going to quell their creativity.
Sometimes Cory and I had decided that delegation is the best thing. If anything, we're too addicted to it. Why don't you do it? You seem like you do it.
You seem like
you're
a great
really
person.
talented at chicken nuggets.
You're awesome at it.
So when we delegate, you just gotta let it go. Like, I know I do things that Cory's like, I wouldn't have done it that way. And I'm like, but she's like, but at the end of the day, I didn't have to do it. So I'm not doing that. I wasn't gonna do it at all. So when you can respect the delegation and let this person think freely, it's the minute that you start, like Cory said, constantly tweaking and twisting their ideas that people kind of feel like, well, I don't want to bring my idea. I don't want my idea torn apart. Mm-hmm. And you don't want your idea taken from you and represented as the other person's. Now, I have to say, when I say those 3 things, what's underneath those is ego. And that's what I think when it comes to a partnership, if you're trying to, glorify your ego of sorts, Phoebe has decided that it's now is a time to scratch a little bit of scratch pad.
Can I just pick that up and put it out? Like the whole thing?
You have to brace the butt part. I know you guys have seen. Oh,
I'm just going to actually
just kick the podcast anyway.
That's why it's too.
Cory. Yeah, bye, Phoebe. Cat's like, what? Cory. Did you put it on his leg?
Huh?
Did you put it on his leg?
No.
See if he's on his own leg.
His legs are fine.
Okay. Sorry, I added a new piece to Phoebe's tote box. And he's in love.
That was easy to remember.
So back to the common goal. Now, the common goal, if you guys have it, is like, I want to be the best. Well, we've got issues that are a little bit deep rooted than what a typical business relationship can handle. So, Cory, what would you say is our business goal? Your business goal?
to have growth. I love to see strategy, growth, no being sedentary, always on the move,
Hustling.
trying new things.
A lot of buzzwords. So when we can say growth, now when I come up with an idea that Cory may not like, but I say, I think this will grow the numbers. Right now, the transfer sheets. Hit or miss if this has been a good idea. People seem really frustrated. But if the common goal, hey, Cory, I think this will grow the group, then she'll be like, okay, it's not how I'd approach it. But she's like, okay, as long as it's for the common goal. And then when you leave ego out of it, we can say like, hey, I think this might have been a not ideal idea.
Yeah.
People seem upset.
Just like with people in their bakes, their ego and their self-worth gets tied to their ideas. So when someone's like, you know what, I don't really like that idea. You're like, no, I don't really like you. I think you're stupid. And it's not that. So you have to come at it like three people, you, your business partner, and the business. So like, I have this idea to grow the business. How about you talk me through it? Because I have some blind spots in there. And if Heather's like, yeah, I don't really like it, I can't take offense to it. I always say, don't ask questions you don't want the answer to.
Amen.
So if I'm like super tied to something, I'm like, what do you think? And she rips it apart. Well, I shouldn't have asked the what do you think part. I should have been like, this really means a lot to me. Can we sit down and discuss it together?
Set those expectations. Now, so when we move on to our next question, let me pull it back up. She says, just making sure we're not missing the WOVA. How do you guys split up tasks, or do you both stay involved in everything? That's a great question. So I think we gave you the
first
retention
it
coordinator.
Was retention.
Yeah.
And then we switched.
Yeah. So we gave Cory retention. So people that are in the group, people that are in the cookie college, she was going to provide enough value to retain those. And then mine was acquisition to grow new users. But then we found out that Cory actually likes making TikTok reels, which are then presented to a cold audience. And I actually like maintaining kind of who we're at. So a lot of the times when people have questions about their membership, I'm the one writing back. And it's when people want to join and have questions about joining that Cory will do that. So we were able to really switch those tasks when we saw who did what better. Again, you got to really take ego out of it.
In our marketing company, what we actually do is go case by case with each client. I can sometimes tell a client that's really drawn to Heather because she's very direct, says little big words, mumbles. They like it.
And then Cory kind of has these ideas and this kind of warm, fuzzy feeling, and they want that hand holding where I'm not a hand holder. Cory's more of the like, hey, yeah, here's some cool ideas. And then we can kind of assign a primary point of contact for that client and then the secondary. Now, when we move forward with the client, there's times where I'll have to provide services and Cory will have to provide services, but we do those which is to our strength.
Yeah.
Now, if you're in a business partnership and you feel like you're carrying the majority of the load, there's two things that could be going on. Either you are, and the other person is lazily letting you, lead the cart. Or the second thing is maybe you're too much of a control freak, which I've been in the past. So I can say it. You're suffering and you shouldn't because you're in your own way. So back up. So ask yourself, am I the one who's constantly taking this? And then you got to always go to the underlying issue. Why do I feel the need to take every task first? Do you not trust the other person to get it done? Are you too much of a control freak or a perfectionist? Mm-hmm. A lot of times perfectionism in small business is a rough way to be because a lot of things aren't perfect.
Yeah, that is really true. I know, like, as a mom, I get into this thing where I'm like, I'll just do it because I can just do it right now instead of having to explain things to my son like, this is how we fold our pants,
But then you end up all your Saturdays taken away with cleaning and pan folding and everything.
Kind of growing
contempt, the final horseman. So you can see where these horsemen of relationships kind of creep in and how they're unhealthy. Now, the one thing about stonewalling that's so dangerous is it eliminates communication. Mm-hmm. Every relationship resides on the health of the communication pattern. So if Cory and I are refusing to talk to each other, very little can get accomplished. Then I'll say, well, if I'm not talking to Cory, if I'm ignoring Cory, well, then I have to take all those tasks to make sure that they're not dropped.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to get contempt. I'm going to be annoyed. I'm going to be upset and resentful that she's not doing it. So again, that communication pattern has to be so coddled. You have to respect it. You have to give people, if you have an issue with communication, you can often see it in your relationship with your spouse. If they feel, you could ask them, But again, if you're going to get defensive, you're going to see that your communication
Don't
pattern.
ask a question you don't want to answer to.
So do you feel that you're easy to talk to? Do you feel like you're easy to get along with? If not, you have to do some self-work. And that might require going to therapy and figuring out why you have this communication pattern and diagnose how to work around it. A lot of times these are just blind spots that we've developed through childhood or adolescence that we haven't been able to see, and now it's destroying our adulthood relationships. And if it costs your business, but you are able to fix that, what a great sacrifice.
I know.
But if it costs you your business and you're unable to see that maybe you were part of the problem, you're going to repeat this over and over again.
And me and Heather, even though we've been roommates, we've been side by side since the day we were born, and we've not always had great communication. It's not something that you're just born with. It's really, truly something you have to work on. So now in my mind, I like to listen first, and then I can read Heather's body language. Oh, wow, she's real passionate about this, And I'm like, oh, then let's try it, versus being like, yeah, well, I'm just going against it because I don't really like it, or I don't want to do the work, or I think anything about it.
Yeah. So again, the tasks we kind of divvy up. We did come up with these names. They don't completely surround. It's not like Corey's like, this is an acquisition task. I'm not doing it. It's just that I'm the coordinator of acquisition and she's a coordinator. Oh, I'm sorry, you're the coordinator of acquisition. I'm the coordinator of retention, which means, hey, this is what I want to do. Can you assist me here? And when Corey wants to do, like, she made me make an ad because we wanted to have some like After Effects elements in it, which she doesn't use, but she assigned me the task. I created the task and then gave it back to her for approval. Again, when a 50-50, you think like, I don't need to ask somebody for approval. You do, because that's her place and this is my place. And then we can bounce that back and forth. So a great thing is, I would say, sit down with your business partner and say, what part of this business do you want to be the touch point, the point of contact for? Doesn't mean that they trump your ownership. It just means that they have something that they can lead and they'll be the coordinator on and the manager for. And there's something that you are good at that you can be the coordinator and manager for.
And what that does is make you guys twice as much things done than going to each other for every little tiny thing. I don't run everything by Heather. A lot of times she'll wake up, see it, and be like, oh, I like that idea. Or, it didn't perform as well, which is totally fine. And it's that trust where we're like, okay, you do your thing. And I'll say, and I'll be like, oh, that was a great idea. If me and Heather went back and forth constantly, it's just a lot of red tape. Like the days would be long.
Mm-hmm. Think about it this way. In our line of business, and likely in yours, if you're listening to this, nobody passes away. Nobody passes away when an email goes unresponded to. There's lessons to be learned, and there's things that you can do. So really just kind of thinking through things at the immediate need. If Cory drops the ball, maybe we lose a Cookie College member, but it's not life and death. And we can always learn from that. If I drop the ball and maybe someone in the group gets upset, then Cory will be like, I think you kind of worded this. Like I locked a thread the other day because people were just being catty in the comments. In the way I locked it, somebody got offended and left the group. So that was me.
How dare you? I got to work twice as hard now.
Acquisition. Ain't no retention on this one. And it's also that mutual respect that if Cory is the acquisition coordinator and I disagree, I should have the ability to communicate, hey, I don't think this landed like we thought it would. Can she respect that? Can I present it in a way that is respectful?
Yeah. Something I learned a while ago, and I run this community group with a lady I've only met once in my life. So I do have a lot of trust in her for
this
me never meeting her.
External community group to like, this is a local community group Cory started?
Yeah, just one from where I live.
Yeah.
What I have learned over the years that if someone comes to me and they're super passionate about something, like she went to make a new rule or went to add a community chat, and I see that they're passionate about it, even though I maybe don't agree with it, I'm going to let them do it because they're so passionate about it. If I constantly went to Heather and been like, yeah, I don't really like that. Oh, I don't really, and always had something to say, Heather's going to lose the passion for doing anything new, anything innovative, because it's always going to be shot down.
I was listening to this British person and they said innovative. And that's innovative.
Sounds like Innova Hospitals.
Aluminium. That's a great point. Cory, gives me the clients that like the whole technical stuff a little bit more, but she'll know exactly when I check out. When they've tweaked too many times, they've made changes to the words and versus the.
I'll be like, it's time for me to step on in here.
So that's kind of how we do that. So give yourself, to recap that, give you and your business partner an assignment, a name, a task, a leadership position, and have them be the point of contact. And run through there like, hey, here's my idea for your, doesn't mean they own it, doesn't mean that their final say, it just means that they're the lead point on this, and say, hey, here's my idea for this. Do you want to think about it? And then when they come back to you, and it's just that respectful back and forth. Now, if your skin is crawling at the thought of that, you may have already damaged partnership.
Did you almost curse?
No, you may have already created damaged partnership. So what you probably have to do is go back to the roots. What caused the injury? What caused the trust injury or the communication injury? And can you talk about it with that person? If you say, well, I don't even think I can talk about it with that person, you guys got a lot of more onion to peel back to figure out what the soft inside squishy part that's been hurt a little bit.
The hardest part with me and Heather working together is we're also family members. So if I think Heather makes a bad decision personally, I take it with me professionally.
So, Cory's been working and I've been breaking up with people. So you kind of leave the personal sides out of it. But if you bring your personal life, a lot of us are small enough that your partners are relatives or, through marriage relatives, that could kind of be an issue. So just be leery that once I had this friend, he was a very wealthy man, and he was just friends through a mutual hobby. And then my then boyfriend, who Cory also hated, wanted to do work for him for a project he was working on. And he looked at him and he said, listen, this changes our relationship forever. Once this goes from a personal to a business, it can never go back. And he was right, and it ended up ruining the relationship.
Are we ruining ours?
You got to say, if this is where, it seems all fun and rosy if you're talking to your sister at Christmas, but when you say, okay, now we actually have to talk about numbers and liability insurance and kind of the gross part of business isn't always pretty, it will change your relationship, but be prepared for that.
I will say, though, since Heather has a rather bad choice in men, I did have to create a certain boundary between, like I said, I am unable to handle your relationship.
You said this to my face.
I said, you can't bring me the stories because I can't separate those.
Why don't you learn how to separate them so I can have my gossip stories?
Turns out I was right.
Now, okay, let's go into how do you deal with conflict. Now, there's a few points in time where I say Cory and I have let one of the horsemen ride alongside.
Yeah. Come on, giddy up.
Led to the conflict. So really, if you don't want to deal with conflict, deal with each of the horsemen before they saddle on up and ride the cowboy.
Yeah. Some business relationships, me and Heather split it 50-50, and that's because, we care about it more than any of our family members do. They'll bring in a third person who has a small percentage of the business that has no ties to the other twins or the other two people who are related. And that is just the tiebreaker person. If the conflicts get so bad and you guys are both immovable, this third person then comes in and I've seen it as low as they have 3% of the business, and it's literally just to be a tiebreaker.
I get a vote and get paid.
Hey,
because they would have to take distribution.
That was what?
Yeah. So you can do that at the point that conflict is so tumultuous. Maybe individual therapy or a business coach for you both or your team would be healthy to figure out a lot of this communication. If you strip it all back, you guys both want your business to grow.
At the end of the day, hopefully.
Right. And it's just how you're going about that that's causing them. Most of conflict is just communication issues.
It is.
So likely you're all on this, you're fighting on the same team. It just feels like you're not. And I think it comes down to that communication. So how do you deal with conflict? Now, if you're anything like me, you don't. You avoid it at all costs and you harbor resentful feelings for the rest of your life. But what I've been trying to do with Cory, and I know that we've been trying to do is like, hey, that was kind of rude. Is that what you meant? And then she'd be like, good, you got my message. But I think we've been doing much better, not for lack of a ton of effort.
Tons of
effort to be like, hey, that hurt me feelings a little bit. What do you think about it? Let me talk in an accent so I don't feel weird. How do you feel like we deal with conflict?
Few and far between are our big conflicts. But when we do have a conflicting interest, space is what we really need before we say something we can't take back. I'm really big into, if the words come out of my face, I mean it.
And she's willing to talk. That's a good point, is space. I think another thing that we've worked on is, Corey, you've really spent the last year and a half working on your stress.
Yeah.
So I
was like always wound up.
Corey was like, and I just landmine eggshells. Like there was landmines under eggshells. And I was just wondering if I was going to be the one thing that she took sideways and all the things she was upset about were going to come out. At one point, Corey got so mad at me. And then at the end, she's like, I'm just so frustrated with my son. Okay. That's okay. But then I think, Corey, that's another thing. I can't make you fix your own stress problems. I can't make you work on calming yourself. But for some odd reason,
you could watch my son a little few times.
My kid is like, I don't know. Sit with you. What made you want to deal with your stress? I think your kidney just quitting his job.
My body, like if it's stress on me, stress is going to win. So I said, I am not living my best life. Like hair's falling out, stress, sleepless nights, super angry, always negative. And it's because it didn't feel good. So really focus on that.
I think at one time I sat you down and I said, hey, it seems like you're suffering a bit, but maybe a little bit you're the cause of it.
Yeah.
So we kind of set up a plan to see if you could fix it. So what we did was more distance. So we didn't work from the same location every day. We only now work Tuesdays.
Yeah.
And everything else is done remotely, which gives a lot more space, a lot less time in the car for you.
Yeah.
And because we were traveling.
I feel less rushed to go pick up my son from school and things like that.
So one thing, yes, the grueling business, we give up 9 to 5 so we can work 24/7. But a little bit of that gives you more elbow room to have the benefits of being your own boss. Yeah. So the downsides of being your own boss is you never stop working. But the benefits are you can take off in the middle of the day and make up for that work after hours if you want. So like Corey and I go to lunch on Tuesdays in Olive Garden because we're not going to go to lunch probably for the rest of the week unless Corey gives me a little bat signal on Fridays.
But I will say the benefits of working your own business versus working for someone else, I don't know if I could go back. But I've never worked so much in my life.
It's one of those things we like to lament it, but a little bit I think everybody kind of knows like this is better than the alternative, or this is a lot more flexible than the alternative. So like, Corey and I don't take vacations very often.
You used to.
That was to go date a long distance guy. You hated. It wasn't relaxing at all. So, but use the benefits of self-employment to really help that conflict. If you see that conflict is introduced because of time together, separate the time apart. If you see that conflict is introduced, you got to find that root cause. What's causing the cavities? I mean, you can keep like putting fillings on top, but if you're not getting to the root canal, if you have a root canal, filling's not going to do it. You got to remove.
Tie that one at the root of the problem.
Well, the dentist texted me, and I have an appointment on May 9th. So I was just trying to prep myself.
Another thing that I do is I told my husband, I said, I'm going to run this story by you, and I want you to unbiasedly tell me if I'm coming from left field here. And the man has.
Story?
Anything you do that annoys me. But he is really honestly he's so not involved that he can really be like, I understand where she's coming from. She's probably thinking this, this, and this. And it really calms me down to be like, oh, I didn't even think about it from that perspective.
Since I don't have a husband because Corey's chased him all off, I had to ask a therapist. I said, here's my twin sister. Here's the issue. Why am I saying this? Wanting this outcome, but getting this result. And she's like, I think your sister's hearing that as an attack or like you're not working versus. So the question was like, hey, what are you working on this week? Which I think you thought I was saying, what are you working on this week?
Yeah,
nothing, you lose. Yeah. And I was like, I was just trying to figure out just like to keep a list of what we're working on. And she's like, you got to approach it differently because when somebody hears something, even if your intention was this, especially if they're relatives and you have a long-term history with that person, they're probably likely hearing something else, which again comes down to that communication issue. So if you have a high conflict relationship, peel back the layers, see what this person's lens is and what your lens is, and see if you guys have any blind spots. Because likely right in that blind spot lies the issue that you're saying something and they're hearing something else.
And especially if you have the same goal. Whatever the little
everything
conflict
else can be solved.
Yeah, it's just a communication error because you want to succeed, I want to succeed, but we're not seeing eye to eye right now. But there's just something, a little tiny dot in there that we just need to discuss because we both have the same goal.
One of the ex-boyfriends that Corey chased off did send me.
Listen, you're welcome.
I know. I know. They did send me this framework for a Monday morning meeting, of course he didn't come up with it, I stole that idea from someone else, what it starts off with, and I find this so interesting, is what's something good in your life and something bad in your life, which tells you where this person is mentally on a Monday morning. So Cory would be like, nothing good, plenty bad. And then I'm like, oh, that's where we're at mentally. Or I'll be like, yeah, rough weekend, blah, blah. And then, or I say, I had a great weekend. Then you can kind of see, because we're just sacks of chemicals, you can kind of see what mood this person is in before you jump in and say, well, what are you working on this week? And they hear that they're a loser.
And I will say I was very against this Monday morning meeting, mostly because it was tied to the guy Heather was dating. And I thought all of his ideas were horrendous. But then now that we do it, it is helpful to get a game plan to really figure out where you are mentally so you can change it. If you can't see it, you can't change it. Uh-huh. So I feel like I'm a little unlucky in life.
We're going to talk about that in just a second.
Okay,
I want to land on this.
Okay.
This has nothing to do with the podcast today, but I need podcast land to vote. But anyways, we will come back to your little car wash story because I want the world to know. Really exciting story. Stay tuned. We got 10 minutes.
10 minutes?
Before we got to do the one with it.
This is the shortest podcast ever.
I'm sorry, man. We drove back from Olive Garden. Your thing is touching the podcast. Okay, and then the final question. We're not rushed. We just go on at 2:30.
You said they had to be.
They said I have the camera on it too.
Okay, all right.
I didn't put any makeup on yet.
You're gonna go put makeup on,
Cory? I look like a shiny.
Put on a filter.
You don't have those. How do you make business decisions if you both like different ideas? This is a great one. So she brings up logo, website, and pricing and stuff. Here is the thing in marketing. Test, and retest. Let the audience vote for you. I don't see why we wouldn't, because your audience loves to have an opinion. Uh-huh. So you can say, here's the logo I like, and here's a logo my partner would like. Let's see what the audience votes, And you may not win, and you may not want to vote because you may not think you'll win.
Yeah.
But I would ask you guys to say, you got to really just figure out the underlying thing. Why is this such an issue? Why can't you move past it? I mean, Cory and my logo is the greater than sign 3 times. I just hit the keyboard a couple times.
Looks good.
Is it the battle you want to, is it the hill you want to die on? So a lot of times I see businesses belly up and I'm like, for that? Yeah. That's why you guys can agree? Is it worth just being a little bit easier? I've been talking to Cory about crunchy and smooth people. The crunchy people force other people around them to be smooth, but you don't always have to be smooth. You can stay crunchy. And when 2 people are crunchy, then they likely go their separate ways.
Yeah.
So are you being too crunchy, or is this something you can smooth out without compromising what your goals are?
Uh-huh. Me and Heather have said it since day one. Business is not emotional. And you're like, no, but it is. It's emotional to an extent because you're involved in it. It's your baby. But business is just a bunch of numbers. Hopefully you get paid out and can retire one day. If you're so emotional over little things like the text in, a piece of literature, there's something else there.
There's something else there. Are you not getting listened to at home, and this is your outlet, is back in business? Do
you feel out of control in your life? Yes. So the italics in your pamphlet matters.
Yeah. So is the business doing more for you than it should be? At the end of the day, the goal of most businesses is to grow efficiently and profitably. If you're reminders. If you're willing to die on here it comes back to the podcast from last week. Branding with heavy emotion creates weird logos and makes weird names. Because we have people who are like, I have 5 dogs, 6 children. I'm born in the South, but I went to Boston one time and I want all that incorporated in a name.
I will say we had a wood refinisher guy who wanted his logo to be his name. It turned out
it was so complicated.
You had to flip the logo over and you saw his name. But when you flipped it back, it was like the acronym for his wood shop.
So when he shows it to us, we didn't design this. It was just what he had designed. I was like, oh, you want to change this? Absolutely. Now it has my name in it. Oh, that's a lot of ego. Like you want your name so apparent in your logo that you're willing to sacrifice the ease of use to make better branding so that your ego can shine on through. And it's still his logo today. So we know that the ego is protected. So all that to say is ask yourself, okay, for the betterment of the company, will I be okay with this logo? Like it comes down to a website. Cory's like, I don't want to do it at all. So I have full say on the website because she says if she starts saying it, then she's going to have to do it. Mm-hmm. So we come to a compromise and then she'll come in and be like, hey, can you change this? And can you add this? Very small things.
And I know me and Heather actually work differently. So if you can go in that the person you work with is not you. So Heather wanted to do these landing pages. She said they were going to be done a month ago. I know eventually they're going to get done.
Mine got done.
But if I'm like hounding Heather to get it done, she's going to hate doing it. She will lose her passion. She will lose the drive, and she might not get it done at all. But guess what? It went live this week because I know the way she works. And Heather knows the way I work, that I can't, if she says something to me, I can't get it out of my mind to do it because I'll feel like it's like on my to-do list. So I'm like, don't say things just for funsies. I can't differentiate that from tasks.
So a lot of it is learning, even though Cory and I look identical and act the same, we're very different people. So it's me understanding if I say this to Cory, even though my intention is this, it may sound like this. So either if I'm going to say it, put it in some bubble wrap and make sure like, hey, this is an idea. I don't care if we don't do it. Mm-hmm. And then see how she takes it. If it's an idea I really want to do, it's my job as a salesperson to sell her on it. Here's my idea. Here's why I think we should do it. Here's what I think it will result in. Mm-hmm. Now, if Cory still doesn't want to do the idea, likely she either should have a counter idea or I didn't sell it well enough. But if our goal is the same, the betterment of the company, then her decision not to go forward with my idea is likely because she sees something I can't see. Mm-hmm. I had this stupid idea. I thought it'd be fun to do like a bracket of the best baker and call it Starch Madness. And she was like, that's a cool idea. That's a great... Why? And I said, I don't know. She's like, that's a lot of work. And I was like, I guess so. She's like, well, how'd you manage it? I don't really know. Do you have time for that? Oh, I guess now that you make it sound so bad, no. So we didn't do Starch Madness.
I think you just love the name.
I loved the name.
And you want it tied to something.
I did. And then we didn't do it. And it's fine. The Vendu Blendy kind of came out the same way. Like, hey, I think people would like this idea. Cory said, let's float and see but have a kill switch. Like, if we don't get enough sign ups, so we can get out of it. Oh, that's a great idea. And then it turns out people kind of liked it.
Except for it is a lot of work for you.
Ton of work, but it is kind of fun.
It is fun.
It is fun.
Don't say a ton stressful, but a blast.
A blast. So then I'm the lead point on Vendu Blendy.
Yeah, and then I'll just, hey, I have this. Oh,
Cory will do support tasks.
Yeah.
A lot of times, even though I post up the collabs, Cory's the lead on the collab.
Your copy? Right here.
That's Cory. So Cory will text me like, get your butt on an Instagram account and start commenting right now. So kind of having somebody lead their idea and being a supporting role, but kind of pointing out very respectfully, again, it's in the delivery.
It is.
If you're pitching your idea or if you're critiquing somebody else's idea, and then ask yourself, how many ideas have I not let fly? Am I going to end up ruining this person's creativity just because I can't be easy to work with? Yeah. And think about it this way. Some of the ideas we've tried, I think last year in the Cookie College, we did a spring break, called it the spring bake. You know, I like managing. Yeah, that was not a great idea. It was extremely hard to manage. And I think some people kind of got offended that they didn't win something because, it was quite the giveaway thing. I think we gave away something every hour for 9 hours.
You did.
It was hard to manage. So then we could say, but Cory let me do it. And then I regretted the day I was born.
But we learned from it. I think to see someone's passions and be like, okay, she's passionate when she gets to work on the website, when she gets to post to social media, when she gets to interact with potential customers. So I'm going to let her take her passions on. I'm more like, I like to be introverted. So I'm going to be in the kitchen. I'm going to be sending
something you really emails. Like is the hashtag on Instagram.
Listen.
I don't get it. I support it.
It's my baby child. I do not know why.
The hashtag, when you use the hashtag Sugar Cookie Marketing on Instagram, Cory will come and interact with your post. She's very proud by how many times it's been used. Is at 214,000 times. So we've added to the Monday morning meeting, incorporating that. And then we'll go through the numbers. Another thing about the Monday morning meeting is the numbers. We'll even go through the social media numbers to see the growth or loss from the week prior. And then it'll be like, oh, I think one of your videos must have gone viral, misacquisition, because we got 3,000 followers on the Facebook page. And then, so that's kind of how that works. And it's a respecting. I do agree that coming up with like little names, not CEO, let's think smaller. Let's just think little like director names. Kind of says, okay, this is a lead point on this. At the end of the day, they kind of have the final say. They're not the all-powerful, judge, jury.
Mine is director of Heather, so.
I do. I would say Cory's like a choo-choo train, and I'm like a herd of cats.
Yes.
I lose interest so quickly in so many things.
But when I set down on a path.
You can't unpath it. You choo-choo train into a brick wall.
Till my wheels fall off, man.
Yeah, and then sometimes Cory will be like, hey, Heather, you got to focus on this. You got to get done. And I'll be like, hey, Cory, I think that's a dead horse. That's that time. There's 5 horses and that one's dead. So let's let it go. So again, kind of mutual respect, but it comes down so much, so far before the business is formed down to communication. And if you're not great with communication at home or with other relationships in your life, likely you're probably not great with communication with your business partner. And it is not the end of the world. There's tons of books, or you can go to therapists to help you figure out why you communicate the way you do. If you hear everything is defensive attack, why is it? Why are you so defensive? Because likely it's like probably a childhood injury, and you're just covering it up with years and years of just fight me in the back.
I tried therapy, but it turned out that I was running the therapy session, and the therapists were just watching me roll.
You're just supposed to date around for therapists.
Hey, Joe, how was this week? Okay with the husband?
How did that make you feel? Okay.
So I was like, okay, I'm gonna quit therapy.
So Cory's gone to physical therapy.
Physical therapy.
Like massage therapy, which was a different tension. So we figured that maybe Cory had high stress.
Yeah.
And maybe I had childhood injuries, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. But it's really helped us both be able to work together. And I will say that even though you hear us on the podcast as all laughs and stuff, it's not just gumdrops and roses.
It's gumdrops and roses.
Yeah, so I think it's pretty good. But understanding what somebody's mood is, if Cory's in a bad mood, I'm not going to pitch her on an idea.
If
she's in a bad mood and then bites off my head, I'm also not going to, hold her to it. Like, yeah, jerk. I'm just going to say you're in a bad mood. Like, hey, do you want to take off today? And then usually I say that. You're like, no, I'm fine.
I'll pull myself out of it.
Cory's car. Okay, let's go to our story real quick and then we'll actually have to let him go.
Okay, all right.
So last week, Cory's neighbor is crazy, but crazy nice. But crazy in that she was a little bit of a hoarding tendency and wanted to start clearing out, which is great.
Yeah, she was doing her spring cleaning, but pushed her dining room table off her deck, and it split into 2 on the ground.
There's already, if you're thinking what I'm thinking, the fact that you're clearing out your house by throwing things over a ledge.
It was fascinating to watch.
Right. So which this sounds insane, I obviously don't live with you, but I've painted it in my head. The table inevitably splits due to the force of gravity, and it breaks into 2 pieces, which makes for an oblong recycled piece.
It's a big dining room table.
Right. So the lady pulls it around to the front of the house where they have outdoor parking.
You can have trash people pick up bigger than normal things.
Yeah,
you just pay an extra fee. This was that day.
Yeah. So Cory looks and sees this now 2-part table with no stability, right?
No, yeah, it's all the legs popping up.
All the legs popping up, and says, maybe I should move my car.
I did.
Well, she didn't.
It was going to rain, and I was like, well, nah.
And when the trash people came, there's no recorded evidence of this. They drug the metal spoke of the wooden table across the car. On accident. Nothing is obviously malicious in this whole story.
Guys, if you know me.
Cory's got this blueberry car recently.
A year ago. A little over a year ago. And it has been my pride and joy to keep that thing sparkling and brand spanking new.
Right. So she really was bummed. On Friday, we had to do icing for class on Saturday. Classes.
Yeah.
On Saturday. So I said, well, it's so crazy. This is how marketing works. I got targeted in this ad for paint correction, just like minor scuffs and finishes. So I messaged the ad, and you can clearly see it's kind of a one-man band or whatever. And he shows up, did his best, but was not able to get the scratch out.
No, scratch is on there. It scratches down to the middle.
You can feel it. You can feel it.
You can see it.
But it's one of those issues where you're like, to fix this, to get the door repainted, is so overcorrecting. But to live with the scratch will forever be cemented.
Drive me crazy.
Yeah. So what do? So then that story's whatever. Then Cory goes to get the car washed. Oh, no. We go on Sunday to meet my mom and my sister for lunch. And Cory's telling the story and then says, you know what? I just wish I was in a car accident so I could just get the whole thing replaced but not have to deal with overspending.
But then I was like, I'm being such a brat. It's just a scratch at the end of the day.
So we leave lunch. I'm driving, sweating. It's kind of hot. And Cory calls and she's like, it just got rear-ended. No joke. No lies. Of course, it was just another small tap.
And it was not where the other one was.
The guy who rear-ended her, super nice, super apologetic. Cory said he had his excuses merited the way that the traffic lines looked like it was a green or red. So they exchange information when Cory goes to get the car washed to see that damage. Of course, what? Just small nicks? Like you couldn't hardly tell it?
You could buff it out.
You're not filing
I'm not going
a claim.
to do anything for her.
So Cory's in this, like, there's this one car wash company that's bought all the car washes called Flagship, right?
Yep.
That's who you go with? Really beautiful looking facilities to me.
It is. Remember, I bought my Flagship
Cory has
monthly thing.
Endless. You can go as many times as you want. She's gone every day. So she gets out of the car wash, the little conveyor belt, right? And she said, I look up and oddly see a 3-year-old meandering through the place where you, vacuum out your car, which is weird to see a kid that age walking through cars. Anyways, Cory said, I see the car that's leaving its little space that was vacuuming. And Cory said, I didn't think he saw the kid. So she lays on the horn in that aggressive, like panic. So the car suddenly slams on its brakes. Yeah. The mom comes and gets the kid, and Cory just thinks nothing of it and parks to go vacuum out her car. And the man comes up to her and says, was that you that honked at me? Cory said, people are crazy here in this area. I was like, yeah, I think so. And he bear hugs her and said, I did not see that child, but I wouldn't have been able to live with myself if I had run over that kid.
So am I unlucky or am I lucky?
Did this paint problem? This is a question at lunch today. Did this happen so that you put you at the car wash at the time the kid was walking when that man couldn't have seen it?
Only person losing this situation is Cory.
But honestly, 2 lives would have been forever changed for your tiny paint nick.
Yes. Yeah.
Is Cory unlucky?
Or is it meant to be?
Yeah. If you you wouldn't have been at the car wash the first time had you not been the trash truck. Then you went the second time because the guy rear-ended you, which put you at the place that you need to see the kid that shouldn't have been walking, but was to honk your horn at the time. So this is the working theory. Is Cory unlucky?
Yes.
Or is everything meant to be?
Also, yes.
Because I said, you're not unlucky. That just happens. Like car nicks happen. But then when she got rear-ended, I said, okay, maybe this is a little unlucky. That's a lot.
Like at the beginning of last week, I got nails in the tires, 2 nails, but they went into one hole. So I only got charged 1 time.
Did the unluck and the luck? We just don't know. So please tell us, what is your theory on Cory's luck and unluck? If you're on Spotify, you can actually vote. But that is interesting. What a crazy story.
What a crazy story.
It wouldn't have seemed so intense if the guy didn't come up and bear hug you.
And he was like, he parked on the side of the road and walked up to me. I was like, who is this guy? Because I didn't know who was in the car. He was just backing up. And he's like, oh my God. Like someone who just seen a ghost.
Because his life was almost about to change.
I know.
Just so crazy because you should, when you hear honking and you don't know where it's coming from,
and I was not like right behind him. I just came out of the little conveyor belt place. And I was like, all I can do is honk right now. It was a split second. And I said, all I can do is honk. If it works, thank the Lord.
And it worked.
It worked.
But then he came back and acknowledged it worked, which a lot of people don't get that side of things.
Yeah, because I was like, maybe he saw the kid in the side view mirror. I don't know.
Crazy. Let's do sponsors so we can do our WOVA.
Okay, sponsors. The first one up is AE Core Backers. It's a food safe backdrop and it's matte, so it's not going to reflect a ton of light. It's food safe. It's waterproof. It's scratch resistant. They're rigid boards, so I usually get the 23 by 23, but I am absolutely been obsessed with them. The newest one to come out is the super white matte finish, and it's just been my baby cake. I have enjoyed it. There's no texture on it. And it's a very smooth. I just love it. It's been my go-to. I actually left it in my living room so I could just have it and grab it because I take my pictures like a crazy person by the front door.
The natural light, man. Natty light.
But you can use the code Sugar Cookie, that is not plural, to get 20% off.
Yeah,
of your order.
You can save money. It's great. Next up, Eddie, the edible food printer. Eddie will be at CookieCon, which is in 2 weeks.
Wow, 2 weeks?
Yeah, rent with the car.
I said I was going to lose a few pounds, but
get started.
I thought it was 4 weeks.
No, it's May 1st is the happy hour. So I guess it starts May 2nd, Tuesday through Friday.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, a year is flying by. Anyways, Eddie, the edible food printer, if you want to see it, and you're going to be in Sandusky, I think I know that they have their own show, like the add-ons or the extra.
Oh, yeah.
But I think they'll also be in the vendor hall where you can see it live demonstrated, printing directly onto food. I saw some people printing with the Milton tray. It was so perfectly lined. I know I'm printing.
Get me a tray.
The 3D printer I recommended last week, I no longer recommend. The women and girls in 3D printing have recommended an even better, more expensive one. Haven't ordered it. Need to breathe a little bit. Think about it. But this printer comes with a camera that takes those time lapses of your prints.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so you can also see what's happening too.
You're just trying
Spaghetti.
your ego's tied to this. Last but not least is a meringue powder called Royal Batch by Bakety Bake. I finally ran out of the old meringue powder, so I had to use my Bakety Bake Royal Batch meringue powder for class on Saturday, and they loved it. They loved it.
Class on Saturday was interesting. We had 2 classes. We typically have only done one, but people begged. People begged for us to teach another, so we did. But it was Easter, and we had, you know what? In the first class, somebody just didn't show up. They didn't ask about it either. I guess they did follow the policy that you can't.
Yeah, but they didn't say, like, can I have my kid after?
Yeah.
So I was able to decorate with both classes, which was a blast for me because I do enjoy that. I enjoy that no matter what I do, someone's next to me and saying, oh my soul.
You know, it was interesting that there's a lady that came into the second class and she was like, yeah, I've actually been a therapist my whole life, so I've never had water cooler talk. Now I'm retired and I realize I have no work friends. So this is me making friends. And she was like, so some other lady's like, well, where did you put my DIY kit to go? And she's like, DIY kits? And I was like, yeah, when you checked out. And she was like, no, it said that they were unavailable. And I know she was right. I know that I made a mistake and it didn't let her check out. Wow. So I was my barrier to entry. And she said, I would have bought 3. I'll buy anything. If you tell me something for sale, I will click the buy button.
She said I go full throttle.
Yeah, she said, I'll come to every class you have.
She was very nice. Very nice.
So that was my little lesson to myself is audit your website. You cannot set these things and forget these things.
And back to Bakety Bake. You can use the code TWINS to save 10% at baketybakeidaho.com.
Okay, do you have Twinterest?
Do I have Twinterest? I did just text the dealership about the TLX.
Cory.
That's who called.
Cory.
Let me just look at that. I don't want my scratch car anymore.
Cory, you're crazy.
I know.
I scratched my car going like, you can't hardly see that gaping hole in it. And now you don't want yours. I want to.
You want to tell the story of your scratched car?
No, I don't want to talk about it. I countered a little curve on the car. And I went in a battle against the curve, and the curve won. Curve is like, I'm crunchier than you'll ever be.
Well, we'll see some of you guys in the food conference here. And if you ask the easy questions, you'll be my favorite. You can ask Heather hard questions or about her past love life.
I'll just buzzword them to death. They'll make no sense, but I'll use some flash words.
Funneling and tunneling.
I like it. Let's talk about funneling and tunneling today. So that wraps us up for the podcast. Sorry, it's such a quick one. 2 minutes. They're good.
You're good.
You're good.
Yeah.
You're good.